Indeed. Okay. Thank you.
Okay. Yeah, it's fine.
Dr. Simrek?
Hi.
Hi. Did you get my email about the recording?
I just saw your email. I'll respond soon, right after the session.
If you agree, it's okay.
Okay.
Just to let you know that we're recording this session.
It's fine.
Hi, Asaf.
Hi.
I am your technical support guy.
Can you put me as a host, or you'll do the...
I will do it. 1 minute.
I alarmed Lior here to help me, but I see that you are here, so we are fine. Technically, we're backed up.
Good.
So you are a co-host, Asaf.
Thank you.
And Eran. You are also and then we have Thomas. You present also.
Yes.
We have only 2 presenters today. The third one was double booked, so
okay.
We gave them 5 minutes extra, both of you. We'll start with Erhan, okay? And then Professor Reynolds.
Sounds good.
We'll wait a few minutes and then we'll start.
Yeah, I think that people just finished the last session, so you have to wait a little bit. Maybe you want to try and share your presentation and see that it works.
That's a good idea.
Should I do that first, or?
Yes, yes, please. Oh, great.
Yeah, this is fine.
Hannah, I looked you up at Twitter, but I didn't find your Twitter handle.
Yeah, I don't have a Twitter account, actually.
Okay.
Yeah, okay.
So, should I be able to share my screen at this point?
Yeah, yeah.
Let's see.
Miri, are we recording?
Yeah, it's recorded. It's automatically recorded.
Okay.
Only if someone stop it, it will stop. But the definitions...
Did my screen share?
No, you have to click on the green buttons, share screen.
Right.
And then choose the PowerPoint presentation and click it.
Let's see.
If it's not open, maybe you can't find it. So maybe try to open it.
Here it is.
Okay. Yeah, it's fine. Great.
Okay.
Asaf, who is the first one?
Erhan.
Yeah.
Am I pronouncing it right? Yes?
Yes, that's fine. Erhan.
In Hebrew, there's a name that you could... I have a friend named Eran.
I met some people from Israel, actually, with this name.
So maybe Israelis will pronounce it wrong.
So Thomas, if you can stop sharing.
Here, so maybe you'll advise me when to start, or we'll start now?
I think another 2 minutes.
Okay. Professor Reynolds, what is the time at your time zone? Is it morning?
Yeah, morning, 7:19.
Thank you for joining us for that early.
Yeah, no, it's a pleasure.
Where are you from?
Minneapolis in Minnesota.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
It's cold there, isn't it?
In the winter, but right now it's hotter than in
Ah,
Tel Aviv.
yeah, okay. I was
Oh
there
yeah.
in the winter time.
Ah, yeah.
Yeah, and it was
Yeah,
very
very,
cold.
yeah, very cold in the winters.
Okay, Asaf.
Okay, so we will begin.
Yes.
Okay. Thank you for joining us at this session, which its main topic is about social media and literacy. We have two speakers. The first speaker will be Dr. Erhan Simsek from the Faculty of Linguistic and Literacy Studies at Belfield, Germany. His main areas of research are composition studies, multilingualism, text linguistics, and literary theory. Erhan, the floor is yours. You have 15 minutes. So,
Yeah, thank you. Thank you for this introduction. This, this is my title, Twitter for Thesis, How Social Media Can Support Academic Writing. And today I'll talk about the potential of social media in improving students' academic writing skills. I have been working as an academic writing instructor at Bielefeld University, Germany for more than 3 years. Before that, I worked as a writing center fellow and language editor at different universities in Germany. Moreover, I have been doing some research on academic writing for a few years now. In short, I have been in academic writing business for some time, both in practical and theoretical terms. Learning academic writing is a long and exhaustive process, as my experience has shown me. In this process, many students are confronted with writer's block. They're frustrated with basic rhetorical moves. They have problems with thesis statements, topic sentences, introductions, conclusions, smooth transitions, or even the conversational structure of an academic paper, namely quotations and citations. One of the reasons behind these difficulties, or behind the problem that it takes so long to learn them, is the singular nature of academic writing. Academic writing as a genre is very different and separate from other forms of daily communication, the traditional forms of academic writing. The rhetorical moves we want our students to use in their essays come mostly in other pieces of academic writing and not in other genres. As a result, students can practice these rhetorical moves only as part of their class or in their university education. And once they leave classroom, they're out of academic writing as well. And I believe that improving students' academic writing skills requires us to bring academic writing closer to their daily lives. And we can use digital tools to do that, especially the social media. In this presentation, I'll explore the potential of social media for academic writing. I'll specifically explore how students can learn the rationale of argumentation, personal narratives, citations, and other components of academic writing with the help of social media outlets such as Twitter, Instagram, and YouTube. First of all, Twitter. As everyone knows, Twitter is a microblogging service which allows its users to express themselves in entries of 280 characters. Twitter is used for a variety of purposes. As instructors, we can use Twitter to help our students with their argumentative writing skills, among others. One of the central assumptions behind argumentative writing is the difference between the subject and object. Mainstream academic writing is based strongly on this Cartesian difference between the analyzing scholar or analyzing student and the analyzed object. Good academic writing, especially in the humanities, requires often a thorough description of the relationship between the two, between the writer and the phenomena analyzed. In other words, good academic writing requires a stance, a perspective, an argument of the writer to the object analyzed. And this is what students are hesitant about, in my experience. Instead of building a stance, they describe the object. Instead of analyzing a novel, for instance, my students often summarize the novel, the content of the novel, the plot of the novel. And Twitter can help us overcome this. In fact, Twitter is frequently used to take a stance to the events in the world. And this seems to be one of the basic rhetorical uses of this social media outlet. A tweet is, in other words, what the thesis statement in an essay is, or better, a tweet can be a thesis statement. I have an authentic example here from a user called Doug Feldman. In his tweet, he says, "The story of Hamlet is the story of how elites in the royal court of Denmark waste so much attention on selfish, self-destructive internal squabbles, they miss the obvious existential threat to all of them, Prince Fortinbras." And this would be a piece of statement. An essay or a paper would require an introduction, a main body part explaining the claim, and the conclusion. A tweet does not have these, obviously, but what we could do is to use Twitter to have our students come up with a thesis statement. Considering the fact that sound thesis statements for essays cannot be very long anyway, 280 characters constitute a natural limit as well. After writing their thesis statements online, students can write their introduction, main body, and conclusion in class or at home offline. The instructor can steer this hybrid process, this process online and offline process. This is one possible use of Twitter. It has this potential to let us practice with thesis statements. Secondly, Instagram. Instagram is a photo sharing social networking site. Visuals can be an asset in teaching academic writing. As the proverb goes, a picture is worth 1,000 words. What is interesting in Instagram is that users can post a text with a visual. This combination can be used for reflective writing, personal narratives, or another experimental genre that includes visuals and texts. Let's consider reflective writing. It is a genre that is popular, especially in classes where English is L2, where students need to practice their English. In my context, so to say, students who study English in Germany. And to that end, students are sometimes required to describe through reflective writing. They describe in order to improve their English skills. And Instagram offers the potential to do this. One option would be to have students upload a royalty-free picture and their reflections in the same post. There are several websites such as pexels.com or unsplash.com which offer royalty-free images for use. And the instructor would give a prompt such as, choose a picture from this website, describe the photo and feelings it arouses in you. And students would then upload the picture and post their reflection as caption. Instagram allows its users to write a text of maximum 2,200 characters for captions. It's almost an A4 page, it's not long. So this exercise would be suitable for shorter pieces of writing. And this would be a first draft. The instructor would then give feedback on this first draft. At the end of the semester, students would put the revised draft in the physical portfolio. In short, students would work online and offline on their reflective writing assignments in this case as well. Thirdly, YouTube. YouTube is a video sharing service, as we all know, and it can help us with citations and referencing. Plagiarism is one of the common problems students have with academic writing, especially in the German context. Plagiarism has become very, very popular, notorious recently. Many politicians are involved in it. So we take plagiarism very seriously in the past 5 years. And one of the main reasons behind plagiarism is, as in other problems with academic writing, is that students don't know the rationale behind referencing, actually. They don't know why it's so important. Why do we quote and cite? For one thing, to clarify the owner of the ideas. It's very important. Moreover, citations guide the reader as well. They allow others to trace the source. They allow the reader to find the source. If readers are interested, they can go back and look up the cited source. That is why sources are given precisely in a paper. They should be given precisely in a paper. YouTube allows us to teach the rationale of referencing on a much more elementary level. How? Well, it's possible to add a timestamp on YouTube, and this allows users to pinpoint exactly which seconds they refer to in a video. It is possible to share a video starting at a certain second in YouTube. Not many people know this, but it's a great feature. It is also possible to refer to a specific second in the comment section of a video, as you can see on the picture. So you click on the minutes and the video starts right at that minute. This makes traceability possible. It allows the viewer to see exactly what the writer refers to in the video. Instructors can require students to write a short response to a specific scene in a video on YouTube. For instance, there are several plays on YouTube. The instructor could give a prompt such as, choose a scene from The Merchant of Venice on that link and explain why it is significant for the plot. Students would post their texts to the comment section of the video with the necessary timestamp. Alternatively, they could also send their texts as private messages or emails with the linked timestamp if they want. And once students get the rationale of exact referencing, they'll probably and hopefully write the page numbers, author names, and the publisher names in their academic papers as well. That's my hope. I don't know if it's gonna be the case. I didn't carry out a research, but this might help. All of these exercises can be completed in closed groups, as almost all of the social media outlets have the necessary privacy settings. In other words, only the instructor and students' classmates would see their writing. In this way, they would not feel uncomfortable about their results being on the web. These are just some examples. It is possible to practice many other rhetorical moves that we use in academic writing through social media. It is even possible to write a whole essay in social media outlets. Facebook, for instance, has a 63,206 character limit for posts. It is around 40 A4 pages, so it gives enough room for experimentation. There are other social media outlets, and there will be more every day, and it will always be possible to exercise academic writing in one way or another online. Of course, most of these rhetorical moves can be practiced offline as well. After all, that is what we did before internet and social media came along. But these were radically different times. With no internet and social media to turn to in their free time, students were also inclined to spend more time with traditional material, such as printed novels and journals. These times are over, and in the face of this, we can and should use students' affinities for the digital to complement our writing instruction. Significantly, I do not consider these social media outlets as a replacement for traditional classes of academic writing. Rather, internet will best function as a complementary venue to the traditional forms of teaching. For one thing, teaching and learning academic writing requires longer texts, and social media is better suited for shorter texts. Furthermore, the objective should be to bring social media and academic writing closer so that more voluntary practice of academic writing takes place in students' free time. In other words, through such exercises, instructors can steer and shape the way students use social media for that purpose. It is true that lines between academic writing and other forms of writing are getting blurred, and we can utilize this process in our classes for better writing instruction, especially in teaching the rationale of academic writing. Thank you, and this is my email address if anyone of you want to keep in touch.
Thank you very much, Dr. Simsek, for the enlightening lecture presentation. And now we'll move, we'll have a round of questions and remarks and ideas to Dr. Simsek later. And we'll move to Professor Thomas Reynolds. He's an associate professor at the Department of Writing Studies at the University of Minnesota, Minneapolis, USA. It's early morning. He's in his time zone, so thank you for joining us.
Hello.
It's time at your time zone. Professor Reynolds' main research interests include critical theories of writing, writing instructions, and the theory of popular literacy. He is currently writing, and this is what I guess you're going to talk about multimodalities theories, and we hope to hear now. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. I'm going to try to share my screen here better. Let's see, hold on. Is that good?
No,
Yes or no?
no.
No,
Oh,
You have to choose the share screen and then the red or green areas that you want
okay,
to
hold
select.
on. Sorry. So,
Miri, do you have the presentation at hand?
uh,
is that good?
no,
Yeah.
Is that on now?
but he showed it just 20 minutes ago, so
Yeah,
I assume he can do it.
hold on a second.
Just click on the green button and then choose the.
Right, hold on, let me try it again. Wasn't coming up.
If you can't see it when you open the share screen,
Can you see the green button share screen?
Yep,
uh,
I've
Push it.
tried. Can you see it now?
No, and then you have to choose which window you want to show us,
Oh yeah, okay,
and then accept it.
hold on. Bear with me.
You will.
Let's see, is it
Maybe,
share? And then,
for instance, so
maybe first open the presentation on your computer, and once it open, click on share screen, and then maybe you have to choose show all windows if you.
here, I see. Okay, here we go. Is that good?
yes.
Can you see it now?
Yes,
Yeah,
yes.
and if you can.
Go ahead, please.
I'll go into presentation mode. This is good?
Yeah, great.
Okay. All right. Thank you for introducing me, by the way. And like Erhan, I'm interested in how academic writing is in relation to other kinds of writing, as well as the kind of feelings that go along with the kind of writing that students do every day. So I've been asking my students to work with digital video in my mid-level composition and rhetoric courses. My particular emphasis today for this presentation is to explore the idea that students can learn to understand themselves better as writers by reflecting on the material aspects of the process of writing. I hope that this pedagogy holds power, especially for students whose past writing experiences have not aligned well with traditional academic writing. So for the sake of context, the course I'm talking about today is a general education course called Writing About Modern Cultural Movements. This is a course after the main composition course that students take in their first year. So this would be a kind of sophomore, junior level course in the American system. I teach the course with the idea of trying to create a link between first year writing and the kinds of writing students could do as advanced students, as citizens, and as workers. The course involves students in a lot of reading and writing about art, 1960s cultural movements, and their own commitments to various political and cultural causes today. And as you know, this has become a major kind of issue here in Minneapolis. Major assignments in the course include 2 traditional papers and a digital video produced in small groups of 4 or so. Each video advocates for something to improve the world: racial justice on campus, combating sexual violence, better mental health at our university, less salt on the local icy roads in the winter, the movement to eat local foods, etc. These are the kinds of videos that my students make. Throughout the course, we try to focus on learning about how to work effectively in specific rhetorical situations. I see teaching with digital video assignments through a lens of multimodality and new materialism. One person who's done especially good work in this area is Jody Shipka. Shipka's work has shifted the discussion about multimodality away from a digital emphasis alone. That is, even though digital culture has made multimodality more visible, she sees value in understanding students as writers who make meaning along many paths, only some of which intersect with the trajectory of writing instruction in schools and colleges. Like me, she's interested in opening up the world of composition beyond a linear process. Beyond a linear process that students and teachers alike see as usually discursive only and often based in standardized testing regimes. By engaging the material world of composition, students are asked to attend to affective factors that might encourage success through less conventional routes. This picture shows a student essay written on the ballet shoes of a woman who had trouble writing traditional essays on traditional topics. She used her ballet shoes to highlight what she could do, what she felt passionate about, that is, dance. Where Shipka encourages students to draw on almost any interest for which they feel passion, I try to ask students to bring their passions within the narrower area of making modest videos that advocate for something to change the world for the better. Today, then, I'd like to emphasize just 3 aspects about multimodality that I bring to the digital video projects. First, I emphasize with students that thinking about multimodality is about more than merely adding images and sound. Second, students need to engage multimodality in both traditional discursive ways and also in non-discursive ways. Finally, I'll make the point that we need to help students become more flexible writers who are aware of the material circumstances in which they compose. Let me take each of these in turn and expand a little bit. So, part of my approach in the course is to help students see writing as thoroughly and always multimodal. Some confusion about the issue of multimodality stems from the influential work of the New London Group, who identified 5 modes of communication: linguistic, oral, visual, gestural, and spatial. Many people identify the academic research essay as monomodal, one mode, but this ignores its multidimensional nature. It has a linguistic dimension for sure, but also a spatial and visual aspect. Beyond that, new materialist scholars have shown how material factors carry agency in almost co-writing texts. To help students see these distinctions is to add to what Gunther Kress calls their available resources for their designed communications. One of the goals in my course is to help students see themselves as more flexible writers. Often this goal is taken up in academic institutions like mine as a matter of how to communicate more efficiently in business or science. At their best, these approaches work with multimodality in very particular directions and not as generalized forms that are good for all situations. This book by Lindsay Sabatino and Brian Fallon offers a certain middle ground with this kind of workplace-oriented instruction in forms. Each chapter takes up a form like infographics or storyboards or others, but then situates it in the activity of writing consultation. It doesn't try to offer a universal understanding of how each of these forms might materialize and be taught, but rather considers each in the context of writing center work. In this case, this book is about working with these forms in writing centers. That's great if you work in a writing center, but how do we work with a variety of students whose interests include participating in the increasingly urgent arena of social and cultural change? How does multimodality figure into their writing educations? So how do we help students develop as writers who care about what they write? I was taken by Erhan's example. I think those were good ones. My thinking has gone to how writers in our classes have their own paths that we have not explored and honored enough. The effort here is to get students to bring their own interests and passions, usually sidelined in the official curriculum, into the work that they do. This point was made all the more salient during this last semester when one of my students, quarantined at home, wrote and sang a song in her group's video in order to make a point that in their initial storyboard they were going to make with on-camera interviews. She recognized and made use of a resource she had at her disposal. Becoming a better writer in this moment meant becoming more aware of her immediate material circumstances. I agree with Shipka then that we need to work with students on recognizing their material realities that make this moment of composition meaningful for them. As the videos I ask students to reflect on where each of them are located with thinking about and feeling what is urgently in need of change. I asked them to think about their own histories, the circumstances of going to school. Are they first generation college students, for example, and how they've been encouraged so far in their educations, both formal and informal. How can they form meaningful new assemblages of assignment demands, career realities, personal histories and involvements, and so on? In a recently published book, a scholar here in the States named Hannah Rule presents a similar project. In her words, to situate processes is to physically locate them, to observe the infinite ways they are shaped by particular bodies and affects, environments and spaces, others near and distant, and various tools or objects. When we call attention to the physical, material, and located dimensions of processes, we foreground the differences, contingencies, and lived experiences of composing. So this is the challenge in my mind, is to draw on all these various contingencies. Recent work by Stephanie Sarasso and others suggests that we need to pay greater attention to how modes carry non-discursive, often affective qualities. She writes about a non-hearing professional drummer, for instance, named Evelyn Glennie, who has attuned herself to vibrations felt through her body as well as other cues in order to perform her art. In paying attention to materiality, I draw on the work of Paul Pryor, who seeks to connect writing instruction with what he calls diverse developmental pathways. Digital video can open such pathways in that students are asked to draw from their past experiences and abilities to imagine, storyboard, film, and edit a video. In a recent keynote speech, Pryor talked about his daughter, who, with a neurodiverse background, took an unusual path that led her to become a PhD in physics. Her route took her through nature programs, internships, experiences with her parents that were not part of the official curriculum, but she was able to draw on these as she went forward with her education. Pryor's idea of nurturing diverse developmental pathways is important to my thinking. Finally, using video in classes can lead back to students doing innovative, effective academic writing, more traditional academic writing. One of the more interesting examples of this in my class came in a fascinating, engaged paper by one of my students at the end of the course last term. Her paper was about communication in the Sudanese Revolution. Images, art murals, and quoted, translated Arabic language protest sayings were all part of the paper. And more than simply added in for my benefit, she made effective use of these by connecting them to her own experiences and identities. Through talking with her and reading her reflections, I learned that the author had attuned her own experiences as a Sudanese immigrant's daughter, a person who spent summers raising consciousness of the revolution with Sudanese Americans, and a person who collected and sent medical supplies to hospitals in Darfur. She was preparing to study medicine herself in order to kind of go along with this effort. Along with her own material history, the course seems to have provided other things: some knowledge of American feminism, study of racial equality, and art as activist gesture. She also had a group of four other women in class that she worked with during the semester in order to make her video and do other things, other small activities. As a complex assemblage, her paper emerged from many relationships that would have been hard to predict coming into the course. I want to emphasize the distributed nature of my students' experiences and how they intersected with the activities of my class. My student expressed her convictions and analyzed a political situation that I knew little about. She was, however, enlivened by the subject matter of the course and perhaps its connections to multimodality to gather images, language, and feeling, real passion, to bring her own expression into existence. In a way, it also made her a writer with purpose. And I think my time is almost up. I'll let her story be my final word for today. So I'd be happy to answer any questions. Thank you for listening.
Thank you very much, Professor Reynolds. Yes, you did. Your time was up exactly when you finished. So, artful presentation form to finish exactly when your time is up.
Oh, yeah.
Now we have 10 minutes approximately to take questions from the audience. We have 60 people here, and maybe we'll do it. It's a new medium for me, even though you talk about here about using multimedia forms to express, to help students express themselves, and as a new way of expression. Maybe if someone have a question, I think you should pop them up in the chat group, and then
I do.
I'll open his mic.
I do.
Mm-hmm.
I,
Yes, yes, we can hear, so you can free to ask. Dania?
Daniel, yeah. It's
Yes,
it's more of a statement rather than a question.
we can hear very, very faintly, so try to speak louder.
Get closer. Okay. Is it better?
Yes.
Okay. So I said it's more of a statement rather than a question.
Mm-hmm.
I believe that the first thing that we need to do is to teach the writing students to view everything that they see on the internet, all kind of even Twitter and Facebook and so on and so forth, to view it very carefully and evaluate it very carefully due to the fact that we have so much fake news and also made up videos and so on, and made up news as well. And so before they learn even how to write, they need to learn how to read, how to watch, and how to evaluate all of this.
So can I phrase your statement as a question of standards and benchmarking? Okay. Yes, would it be right to refer it this way?
You may.
Do you want to comment on this, both of you, Reynolds and Sisemek? No, you don't have to. About how do you keep standards, about how do you judge or grade such an artful statement that was written or handed to you in a form of a tweet or in a form of a written essay on shoes or on dancing shoes?
Yeah, well, I think the questioner's point is a good one, actually. And the way it comes up in my classes is students often draw down images from the web or other text from the web, and sometimes ideas, as she's talking about, that may or may not be verifiable. And so this becomes a matter of teaching information literacy, I think, along with, you know, whatever else we're doing. And I see it as incredibly important. So I agree with the comment.
It's difficult to standardize, that's for sure. The grading is very difficult to do. Most of my classes are pass-fail classes, so I don't have this problem in my classes that much. But if I had to give a grade, I would have difficulties with it. That's true.
Can I generalize and say that both of you, even though you're quite different aspects and of research, are involved in trying to help students reach a level of not just proficiency in academic writing, but also as an identity, to develop their identity with social awareness and the ability to articulate this social awareness into the external world, not just in the academic text form. Is it right? Do you want to comment on this?
Yeah, I think you're right, Asaf. And it's as much about engagement, I think, as identity. I think identity is part of that. They bring identities, students do, I think, to the projects that they do, but sometimes they are so far removed that you know, efforts like Erhan's are important because they do kind of, they develop these passions somewhere else, and then we ask them to do something that is so kind of, I don't know, cookie cutter, you know, kind of approach, or something that's based on getting a grade rather than creating some meaning, that they lose some of their, that. I think there are challenges, obviously, to working with identity as a sole kind of criterion to bring to any piece of writing. But
I think if you complete assignments that the kind of assignments that I give my students, you definitely have to be visible. And when you are visible, you have to show something. And this is identity, actually. So the classes help students polish their identity or express their identity better, if you like. So it's very difficult to divide this from identity question.
Yeah.
Do you have comments or something that students come to you after they finish, they graduate your semester? Something interesting to tell, to elaborate on what you just presented here? Maybe we'll hear one story from you and Professor Reynolds, one story from you, Dr. Sismek.
I can't think of anything right now.
Okay, sorry, because I think both the courses that you are teaching and you presented here are dealing with very personal experience, the personal experience of the student, the development of his own life career. So I thought that maybe students will come to you and approach you and share with you stories of life-changing maybe or something like that.
Well,
Would have expected.
one story I can share with you is not a life-changing one, but a more practical one. And I should tell you that the students in my classes just use phones to make their videos. And so I showed the flip video in the presentation, flip video, whatever it was called, recorder. Those were the earliest ones we used, but now of course students use phones and their computers, their laptops to make these. But one student came back to me after the course and wondered, what was it that that program that we used in order to edit the videos? Because I have a job now in the highway department and I'm asked to make videos in order to kind of carry out my job. And it was interesting because I think what I taught her, or what the course taught her, was more about rhetorical kinds of situations. And she knew how to do that, but she came back wanting to know more about the tools, which I thought was a kind of interesting.
One question here to Dr. Simsek was also about the tools, how can you use the tools? But I think the deeper aspect is how you use the tools and mesh them together with academic writing to do something with the students.
Yeah, I think that's right. And, you know, my emphasis has been on to de-emphasize the kind of like latest tools in order to get students to think more about the meshing that you're talking about with the meanings that they're making with them, I guess.
With several minutes, maybe you could elaborate a little bit more about the future of enmeshing those social media into the academic, old and strict ways of writing. What do you think will be the future? What the future holds for us in this 10 years from now?
If I may start, I think the future the future of academic writing will be much more blurred than as it is today. So I believe that Twitter, social media, or internet will put a hold on the traditional academic media in many ways. So I think we should, as academic writing scholars, get used to the idea of blurred spaces, blurred ways of writing.
Do we, as old academics, need to learn how to use Instagram, for example, and pose and do those not just write?
I'm not sure about Instagram as such, but I'm pretty sure that we need to be much more tech savvy than we are today.
Much more what?
Tech savvy, much more digitally native, much more digitally aware. So the future will bring many software, social media outlets, and at some point it will be difficult to escape them. I don't know how much, how
many. Peer review for Instagram pictures.
Well, you know what? They actually have been doing it, and have been using it in the communication colleges for many years already. See, the first time the Twitter started, they started using it as a work tool within the studies and also as a means of getting a job.
Mm.
Yeah.
There are
Yeah.
also some journals which expect visual abstracts, for instance. They want a visual abstract from you know, from scholars. I don't know how to prepare one. This is the direction probably the academic writing future is taking.
Professor Reynolds, do you want to comment, and then we'll
Yeah, you know, I would just
dissolve
agree with
into our
Erhan.
virtual spaces?
I think the blurring is going to continue, and I think the way that I try to learn about it further, and I agree that we need to be more savvy with this, is to keep talking to our students and our kids, because I think we're going to lose it if we don't. But I mean, I can't keep up with the latest everything. That's a problem. So I think, you know, focusing on the rhetorical kinds of sides of things is still relevant and important. And I think whatever tools are developed, we can continue in that direction.
It's the old Greek rhetorical.
Well, yeah, or modern.
Very important for all of us.
Yes.
Thank you very much. You could, some people asked in the comments about your, how to reach you, but I guess they can find you through the.
Oh, yeah, I'll put an email address in the.
Maybe you could put your email at the chat room, and then we'll.
Yeah, I sure will.
Go to the.
I should have done that. Okay.
Thank you very much again.
Yeah, thank you. Let's see. Chat message.
Thank you, Asaf. Can I close the session?
Oh, hold on a sec. I'm going to put an email address in there.
Okay.
Okay. That should be in there now.
Thank you very much.
Bye-bye.
Bye.